Coming up on Bridge City News, Premier Jason Kenney says plans to reopen the Alberta economy are coming soon. Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman is urging many in southwestern Alberta to stay the course when it comes to flattening the COVID-19 curve. And residents in Fort McMurray are still struggling through the worst flooding that city has seen in 100 years.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. A search and rescue mission is underway after a Canadian Navy helicopter on a NATO mission crashed off the coast of Greece. Initial reports say 6 people were on board. So far, 1 body has been recovered in the sea between Italy and Greece. The helicopter took off from the Canadian frigate Fredericton, which was participating in NATO's naval force in the Mediterranean Sea. Premier Jason Kenney says Alberta is doing better than expected on containing COVID-19, and the government plans to begin relaxing health lockdown rules in May. Kenney says details of Alberta's relaunch plan are coming later this week and will mirror those already announced in Saskatchewan. Now, in Saskatchewan, the plan is to start with medical services such as dentists, optometrists, and physical therapists on May 4th. Golf courses could be allowed to reopen on May 15th, followed by retail shops that sell clothing, flowers, toys, and sporting goods on May 19th. Other restrictions on businesses with large gatherings would follow with strict monitoring of outbreaks and cases at each stage. The province's decision to roll back some changes to doctors' fees has not ended the controversy that led some rural physicians to withdraw some services. The family doctors have reversed their decision to stop delivering babies and care at the hospital in Lac-La-Biche. But 9 others in Pincher Creek say they're moving ahead with a plan to withdraw from the hospital in 90 days. They include Samantha Meir of the Rural Sustainability Group, who says she does not trust a government that has given them no cost certainty. The province announced today that it has done 5,205 new tests for COVID-19 and found an additional 315 cases of the virus, bringing the total number in Alberta to 5,165. Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dina Henshaw, says there were also 7 new deaths, bringing the total number to 87.
All 7 deaths reported today come from long-term care facilities in Calgary, including 6 at Clifton Manor. I want to emphasize that this sad news is not a reflection of the work that has gone into managing this outbreak at the site, where my local colleagues tell me that the site responded promptly, created an isolation ward, and worked hard to prevent the spread. Despite this shows the power of this virus in a closed environment. My sympathy goes out to the friends and families of all these individuals and all those who live and work at Clifton Manor and any other site that is experiencing and dealing with an outbreak right now.
Now, there was also some good news today. Dr. Dina Henshaw also shared that 1,953 people have recovered from the coronavirus in our province. Officials are keeping a close eye on the river levels around Fort McMurray after a massive ice jam caused major flooding and forced more than 13,000 people from their homes. Mayor Don Scott says it caused the worst flooding in 100 years and comes at a time when people are struggling to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. People in the city are no stranger to evacuation orders. In May of 2016, 90,000 residents were forced to flee due to a raging wildfire that destroyed 2,400 homes and businesses. The province announced today that those who have had to evacuate due to spring floods in northern Alberta will receive funding of $1,250 per adult and $500 per dependent child. Evacuees can apply for their emergency payments online beginning on Monday. Government officials say it could take up to 24 hours for funds to be e-transferred. Premier Jason Kenney was at Fort McMurray recently surveying the damage, and he says this is one of the worst floods he has ever seen.
We took a flight over the city and saw the impact. It's very significant. Of course, this adds to a town that's been through so much adversity in recent years, a community that has struggled with the fire 5 years ago, with several years of economic adversity, now with the coronavirus pandemic, and now these floods. And so I'm just here on behalf of all Albertans to share our solidarity and our practical support with Wood Buffalo and the people of Fort McMurray. As they get through this, we will provide all resources that are necessary. The Department of Environment and Parks has already been providing a lot of practical support, including pumps. We are going to be sourcing sandbags to help defend some of the infrastructure in the community. We, of course, will be providing funding for emergency response, and we'll be talking, once we get past the emergency phase, to the community about rebuilding, as obviously there will be some significant and lasting property damage.
Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman met with the media earlier today and thanked the various organizations and local residents who have taken the time to volunteer during the coronavirus pandemic. He says he knows how hard it can be to want to reopen businesses and break social distancing, but he's urging us to trust the process.
I've already had inquiries to my office from some who want to open their businesses, and of course we don't have the authority to tell them to go ahead, and it would be irresponsible for me to do that. People are stir crazy, people want their businesses open. I understand that frustration, but overall, the most important thing is that we maintain a healthy city and a healthy community. And as frustrating as it is, and we sympathize for everybody's economic situation, we want to make sure that everyone comes out of this and has a long and healthy future.
Lethbridge has been in a local state of emergency since March 20th, and it is extended until the end of June. With the dry weather we've seen lately, Lethbridge County has issued a fire advisory. Now, it's not a fire ban, but the county is asking to use extra caution when burning while the advisory is in effect. The county also sent out a reminder that obtaining a fire permit is mandatory at all times. For more information on the fire advisory, be sure to visit albertafirebans.ca. Fresh off of news that there have been COVID-19 outbreaks at meal processing plants in High River and Brooks, comes word that a poultry plant in British Columbia has 55 new cases of the virus. Government officials say the cases at the now closed Superior Poultry and United Poultry plants continue to show the need for extra vigilance at workplaces.
The majority of our cases today come from the ongoing investigations in two poultry producing plants, including 46 cases now associated with Superior Poultry, and that's the largest increase related to that today, and 34 cases related to United Poultry.
Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry reported 2 deaths, bringing BC's total number to 105. Expecting a baby for the first time can be a whirlwind of emotions. So many firsts. On top of the stress of a big life adjustment, new moms are now coping with the coronavirus pandemic. A Lethbridge mom-to-be shares how she has been navigating through this very difficult time.
We can't go to a birthing class together. We have to find that online. Even shopping for maternity clothes, I'm having to do that online. Just rely on social media a lot more and swap and buy and online shopping for that and trying to get ready for the baby. So all those big purchases you'd make, we can't, go into the store and test out strollers. We have to do all that online. So just all those things that you wouldn't think about are just a little bit more difficult because of what's going on. So we're going to do a gender reveal virtually for our friends and family, and then probably plan a virtual baby shower as well.
There's an organization in Lethbridge which works with expectant mothers called the Pregnancy Care Center. Executive Director Monica Lowen says they can offer counseling at all stages of pregnancy and are able to help counsel those through an unexpected pregnancy. Lowen says when you're pregnant, it seems that everyone wants to give you advice.
Often when a woman finds herself unexpectedly pregnant, everyone else around her has the answers. So if she has spoken to people, there's people saying you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, or else she's really scared to tell anyone and she hasn't been able to speak about it. When we're not invested emotionally in her situation, we're not part of her day-to-day. So we're there to say, we're here for you. Whatever you choose, we're going to support you.
Catch the full interview with Monica Lowen from the Lethbridge Pregnancy Care Center and BCN's Jeanette Rocher coming up in the second half of our show. U of L Pronghorns hockey could be making its return. The university has created a committee which may allow the men's and women's hockey programs to be reinstated to U Sports. The news comes just over a week after the school announced both programs would be canceled due to provincial budget cuts. U of L President Mike Mann says they're looking at other community-funded programs for inspiration.
The football program at the University of Regina that is community funded, the hockey program at Lakehead University that's community funded. Dan and I have already talked about getting information from those two programs to understand exactly what those programs look like in terms of the model, probably talking to to some folks at those two universities to get a real understanding. Laval University also has a very significant community-based funding model, so probably taking a look at Laval as well.
The committee will be led by U of L alumnus, a retired entrepreneur, and oil field company executive, Dan LaPlante. Shopping and eating locally can help businesses in Lethbridge stay afloat during this tough time of COVID-19. Tourism Lethbridge has instituted a new hashtag called #YQLocal to get the word out. You can get the goods delivered right to your door or curbside pickup. As Micah Quinn explains now, businesses like the Purple Carrot and Bread, Milk and Honey in Lethbridge know that initiatives like this really help.
The Great Escape Lethbridge is temporarily closed due to COVID-19, but now the company has made the switch to online game puzzles.
Now we've moved on to doing a print-at-home game that people can get on our website. And so it's really easy. It's just a set of PDF documents that you download and print. And you can play over Zoom with your friends as long as they can access documents too, or you can play with your family at home.
The game provides clues that you have to decipher.
The purpose of the game is to find out what happened to a team of scientists who vanished on a research base in the Arctic in 1973. So what you're doing throughout the game is you're going through their case files and their field notes in which they've left a trail of codes and clues to let you know what happened to them. And you'll slowly kind of discover there were some strange phenomena going on the research base, maybe some extraterrestrial intervention and things like that.
3 friends, Matt Nand, Nick Boots, and Nick Lowen, tried out the game on Zoom.
Okay, so 180, right? So north is supposed to go west, right?
Champagne says the Great Escape Lethbridge has another game in the works and that there has been good feedback so far.
It's really great to see support from the community because we're a local business.
Melody Champagne says that the Great Escape Lethbridge will keep on releasing game puzzles as long as people are interested, and she says that the company is very excited to see where this could go in the future. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's National Superhero Day. BCN's Loris Alexander found a fraction of superheroes in Lethbridge who many feel deserve to be honored.
We are so lucky to be surrounded by superheroes every day at the food bank, which is really fantastic. But today is a special day for us to be able to honor those people that give of their extra time to help us out here at the food bank. It's quite great.
I know there's a lot of other folks who would love to be here, especially the seniors. However, they can't be here for very particular reasons. So then it's nice to see the staff getting other people involved. So I've been putting in an extra couple of shifts, whatever I can to help out. It's all for the community.
Several days a week, I actually hand out food hampers to the clients that come. And that's really exciting, and I've had some really neat conversations with some of the people, the clients, but the staff here are also amazing. They've been very fun to work with, enjoyable.
People from the local grocery stores and businesses that have continued to provide despite things slowing down, despite them not having the same kind of business. And some of them are sad stories. We've had restaurants that have gone under, literally have closed their doors, not temporarily, but long term. And they have given us all of their product. And so we've got amazing things there.
We are delivering out essential grocery items to anyone who is in need, irrespective of who they are, where they're from. So we have been, so we decided that, and we have kind of marked around $15,000 for that. Since then, we have already had so many of our local residents and somebody from outside the community as well reaching us, saying, oh, they will be happy to contribute in whatsoever way they can.
We're trying to help out people that are laid off work. They don't have any money. They don't have no support from the government. Basically, anybody who needs help, they can approach us. They can give us the list of their essentials. The monies that we had put together to build towards a Gurdwara, we've actually decided that it's better that we put that money to better use in the form of helping out people during this pandemic.
Irfan Khan, one of Bollywood's most beloved stars who had achieved considerable success in Hollywood, has died. He was best known for his roles in Slumdog Millionaire, Life of Pi, and Jurassic Park. Now, despite his status of one of Bollywood's most celebrated actors, Khan had a reputation for modesty and integrity, and news of his death sent fans into mourning. This prompted actors, fans, and politicians from around the world to express their sadness at his death.
Other than being an actor, he was also a social activist. So that makes him the real hero in Indian context. So he took stand on all the issues India is facing.
The kind of roles that he played, we grew up kind of watching his, when he first started in a serial named Chandrakanta, right? All his roles as a twin brother and stuff, and there I can still kind of, those memories came back this morning.
Khan passed away on Wednesday at a Mumbai hospital at the age of 53 after battling a colon infection. Post Media says it is permanently shutting down 15 community newspapers in Manitoba and Ontario. It will result in about 30 layoffs. It says papers in Altona, Selkirk, Winkler, and the Prairie Farmer will publish their last print editions on May 4th. Andrew McLeod, who's the Post Media CEO, says the company has had significant losses in ad revenue due to the economic effects of the coronavirus. McLeod says the papers are being shut down because they're no longer financially viable. The Canadian Football League is not immune to the financial crisis caused by COVID-19. The league has not had any revenue for 6 weeks and is cash-strapped. They're asking the federal government for $30 million plus an additional $20 to $70 million, where it plays a shortened season that ends with the Grey Cup. League sources say if the season, which was set to begin on June 11th, is cancelled altogether, they'll be asking for $150 million to get the start of next season. The CFL says it will pay the money back by providing partnerships with its players and teams. It would deliver programs that promote tourism or social messages about domestic violence or bullying. It is really the only option since the league is not in a position to repay a $150 million loan. One of our regular contributors, Toronto journalist Brian Lilly, says due to COVID-19, we may not see professional sports for quite a while.
We're not going to see a return of professional sports or even going to watch your kids play. And look, I know some people are saying, oh, where I live, it's fine. And why can't we just have the CFL start back up? Well, there are 3 CFL franchises in Ontario alone. There's 2 in Alberta. There's one in Quebec. Our 3 provinces are not ready to open. So what are you going to have? British Columbia and Saskatchewan play each other over and over again?
Catch the entire interview with Mr. Lilly discussing how the pandemic is affecting so much of our economy. That's coming up after business news. A man who had already killed 13 people in Portapique, Nova Scotia, managed to escape the community just minutes after the police arrived first at the scene. RCMP say Gabriel Wortman crossed a field in a replica police cruiser around 10:35 p.m. on April 18th. That was just 9 minutes after a police car arrived at the scene of the murders and the burning homes in the community.
Our job now is to determine the actions of the gunmen on April 18th and 19th. Though the gunman will never stand trial, we will still have a duty to complete this investigation by the same standards that we would have if he was standing trial. At this time, priority areas for us are to determine how the gunman obtained access to the equipment that he used and to establish the gunman's movements before and after April 18th and 19th. We'll also want to determine if anyone had any knowledge of the gunman's plan, if any, and if they had assisted him in any way.
Hundreds of times each week, doctors and nurses are putting themselves into harm's way treating critically ill COVID-19 patients. Several hospitals are now offering support sessions for airway experts.
It's never an uncomfortable feeling, it's more of just the unknown.
Is it a male or a female? Male.
It's just with this scenario and the COVID positive patients, you're worried about yourself, you're worried about, am I protected, am I covered appropriately?
You are very fearful of contracting the virus just because of the closeness of you to that patient's airway and to the virus.
This is what a breathing tube looks like, and when we place this in, it'll go through your vocal cords into your trachea.
It's like feeling that almost like you can see the virus.
I think if you are in this profession, you have to have some form of empathy for these people. They're alone. Most of them are afraid. They don't know what's going on. They don't know if they're going to wake up with a breathing tube in or not wake up at all.
For a while, I kept track of who I had intubated to see how they were doing, and after a while, I stopped. It was not it was a little depressing.
You do realize, when they're looking up at you and you push that sedation through the IV, that yeah, theoretically you could be the last person they ever see.
It kind of normalizes those emotions and makes you feel like it's okay to kind of feel the fear, the anxiety, the guilt that you feel.
COVID-19 antibody tests have become widely available across North America, including the United States, but the effectiveness and reliability of such tests remains in question. They can be used to determine if someone has been exposed to the virus and developed antibodies against it, which could indicate some immunity.
I came to get the antibody test because I tested positive for COVID back in March. It's been very hard and emotionally draining. It was ups and downs when I was sick, and I wasn't sure if, to be honest with you, you don't know if you're going to go to sleep and not wake up the next day because you're so sick and there's nobody there to help you.
You have the antibody. You can go to work, you can do whatever you want, and you are not afraid.
I have the antibody, and I was told that I cannot get sick again for I don't know how long, but that's a good sign that I'm on my road to recovery.
We had another beautiful summer-like day today in Lethbridge, and that trend will remain for the rest of the week. Full weather details are coming up. The mercury is climbing once again. Jeanette Rocher is here now with all of the weather details. Jeanette, it's feeling more and more like summer than spring lately.
Yeah, well, it sure does, especially with that high of 24 degrees that we had today. Looking into tonight, that we're going to be seeing some clouds and increasing clouds as we get after midnight there, with a nice light westerly wind of 20 kilometers per hour, gusting to 40 at times. An overnight low of 10 degrees. And then into tomorrow, we're going to be seeing a high of 22 degrees with cloudy periods and increasing clouds throughout the day. Tomorrow's low in the evening will be 6 degrees. And then looking to the following 5 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, lots of sunshine. 17 is the high for Friday. 21 degrees will be the high on both Saturday and Sunday. And into Monday, we're going to be seeing a 60% chance of showers with a high of 13 degrees. And then we're going to increase a little bit to 16 degrees for the high on Tuesday with a mix of sun and cloud. Now, as we look at the averages for this time of year, the almanac says that 16 should be the high average. We're definitely higher than that, and we're higher than that low as well of 2 degrees. Now, the high temperature on this day was back in 1939. It was 29 degrees, and the low temperature was -12. That was in 2005. The sun rose at 6:11 a.m. and set at 8:46 p.m. for your Wednesday sunset. Now, looking to tomorrow's highs across the country, we're going to be seeing a mix of sun and cloud in both Victoria and Vancouver, with highs of 16 and 15 in those cities. Now, Calgary will be seeing a 30% chance of showers tomorrow with a high of 18. High of 20 is expected in Edmonton tomorrow with a mix of sun and cloud. Sunny skies over in Saskatoon with a high of 25. Beautiful day there. Nice day in Regina too. 26 is their high with periods of clouds, and a mix of sun and cloud also expected for Winnipeg tomorrow with a lovely high of 21 degrees. Now, over in Toronto, we're going to be seeing periods of rain with a high of 14 degrees. Showers also expected in Ottawa with a high of 15. Montreal, we're going to be seeing periods of rain in the morning. It's going to be clearing by the afternoon and then mainly cloudy for the rest of the day with a high of 18 degrees there. Fredericton, we're going to be seeing clouds, 12 degrees, and they're going to see a lot of sunshine in Halifax with a high of 13. Sunshine in Charlottetown with a high of 10, and sunny skies also expected for St. John's, Newfoundland tomorrow with a high of 6 degrees. Nice to see the sun shining on the East Coast finally. There you go. That is your weather.
A new Stats Canada survey says more than half of Canadian businesses have lost revenue since the COVID-19 crisis erupted back in March. The study says of the more than 12,600 companies surveyed, close to a third reported their revenues had fallen by 40%. Close to 25% of business owners say they've laid off 80% or more of their workforce. Around 60% say they could reopen or return to normal less than a month after restrictions like physical distancing is lifted. Synovus Energy is reporting a $1.8 billion loss in its first quarter compared to a profit of $110 million in the same quarter a year ago. The oil sands producer says the loss occurred as oil prices fell due to a drop in demand as a result of the coronavirus pandemic and a price war between Russia and Saudi Arabia. Synovus had slashed capital spending, suspended its dividend, and rolled back salaries. It also reduced oil sands production by 60,000 barrels per day. Officials said, however, they're able to ramp up production when market conditions improve. Stocks across North America and Europe are headed higher following an encouraging report on a study for treatment for COVID-19. Gilead Sciences put out a statement saying an experimental coronavirus drug met its treatment goal in a major U.S. government study. It tested around 800 hospitalized COVID-19 patients around the world. The company says the main result is how long it takes patients to recover, but gave no further details. Loblaws Companies says its first quarter profit was up 21% from a year ago to $240 million. The owner of the grocery stores and Shoppers Drug Mart says revenue was up 10% to $11.8 billion as shoppers stockpiled supplies during the COVID-19 pandemic. But it says costs also rose as it ramped up spending to protect its workers and customers. Food retail same-store sales rose 9.6%, while overall drug retail same-store sales climbed 10.7%. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 429 points to finish the day at 15,228. The Dow was up 532 points to 24,633. The S&P 500 was up 76 points to 2939, and the Nasdaq was up 306 points to finish at 8914. Oil was up $3.01 to $15.35 per barrel. Natural gas was down 7 cents to $1.88. Gold was up $1.50 to $17.1491 an ounce, and silver was up 2 cents to $15.32 an ounce. Wheat is at $245 per metric ton, barley's at $238, canola's at $454, and corn is at $238 per metric ton. Live cattle were up 8 cents to $89.50, feeder cattle were down 8 cents to $119.90, and lean hogs were up $1.23 to $57.78. The Canadian dollar was down slightly today to 72.04 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, Premier Jason Kenney says Alberta is doing better than expected on containing COVID-19, and the government plans to begin relaxing health lockdown rules in May. Kenney says details of Alberta's relaunch plan are coming later this week and will mirror those already announced in Saskatchewan. They include allowing dentists, optometrists, and physical therapists to reopen, followed by retail stores opening shortly after. There's an organization that helps people who are caught off guard by an unexpected pregnancy. Up next, BCN's Jeanette Rocher chats with Monica Lowen, Executive Director with the Lethbridge Pregnancy Care Centre, about counselling and help that's readily available.
Well, many people love the idea of having their own children someday and raising a family, but an unplanned pregnancy can potentially throw your world into a bit of a turmoil unless you get someone to come alongside to lend a helping hand. Today's guest is Monica Lowen, Executive Director of the Lethbridge Pregnancy Care Centre. Welcome, Monica. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
All right. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your organization, what it's all about, what kinds of help you provide?
Absolutely. Lethbridge Pregnancy Care Centre has been operating in downtown Lethbridge for 6.5 years, so since 2013. And we are there to provide assistance to women and men facing an unplanned pregnancy. Anyone facing an unplanned pregnancy, like you alluded to, that can cause a lot of turmoil. And it's a big decision to have to make. And so we're there to provide a listening ear, to provide encouragement, and to provide information on options available, and then support after the decision is made, whatever that decision is, whether that becomes practical supports or emotional support afterwards.
Right. So can you update us a bit on how your clinic is operating now that we have COVID-19 restrictions in place?
Absolutely. So for the last, 7 weeks now, our door has been locked. So we have just 2 paid staff in the office. Our volunteers are checking on their clients from home via text, via Zoom. We're still doing new client intakes over Zoom. The phone is starting to ring a lot more. Women are finding themselves unsure about a pregnancy, and they're needing to talk. So we are being able to do that via Zoom and video conferencing. Women who need practical support, so diapers, formula, things like that, we're bagging that up, and we're able to hang that on the door to ensure good social distancing there as well.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? We're all kind of doing it now, aren't we?
Absolutely.
All right, so I went through a crisis pregnancy myself, so I understand what it feels like. But what, maybe you can explain, what typically goes through the mind of someone who just found out that they might be pregnant? Is there panic and fear, obviously, fear of being left alone?
Absolutely, and I think actually the emotions would range as far as a spectrum, right? For everyone who finds themselves in that circumstance, it depends on their larger circumstances. For some women, they find themselves in that unplanned pregnancy and there's perhaps shock and surprise, but there's, okay, I can do this, I need a little bit of help. For others, there is absolute panic in that, what's going to happen? Are my parents going to kick me out? Is he going to leave me? How can I do this? So really the range is enormous. And that's the piece where we get to come in and meet her where she's at. And just assure her that however she's feeling is normal and that's okay. And we're going to be here for her.
Right, or him, because you mentioned that you do
Absolutely.
counseling for men as well. All right. So when an unplanned pregnancy occurs, there can be a stigma, obviously, that comes with that. So your clinic provides a non-judgmental approach. What does that look like exactly?
Absolutely. Many of the clients that we see often, they're judging themselves pretty harshly already, so they surely don't need anybody else. We're there to just answer their questions, and we're there as somebody who's not emotionally invested in her situation. Often when a woman finds herself unexpectedly pregnant, everyone else around her has the answers. So if she has spoken to people, there's people saying, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, or else she's really scared to tell anyone, and she hasn't been able to speak about it. When we're not invested emotionally in her situation, we're not part of her day-to-day. So we're there to say, we're here for you. Whatever you choose, we're going to support you. We're not living her life. At the end of the day, we go home to our lives. She goes home to hers still pregnant. So we can't make that decision for her. We can't tell her what to do. And we surely can't judge her for what she chooses to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really important too, especially when you have individuals coming in looking for counseling, particularly maybe post-abortion counseling and support, which you do as well, right?
We absolutely do. We are finding the longer that we're open that we meet more and more people, right? Everybody responds very differently after an abortion experience. And what we do find that our clients talk about is there's not a lot of space to talk about that. While the topic of abortion is far-flung across our country, there's a lot of attention given to it, and everyone has a really strong opinion, there's not a lot of space given to women to speak about their emotions after an abortion, whether that's relief, whether that is pain, whether that's confusion, whatever that is, often a woman will keep that to herself. But that is something that needs to be talked about. And so we're happy to do that and journey alongside her as she wrestles through those emotions and how that's impacted her life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Now, what age groups are you typically dealing with? Are the clients on the younger side, or do you get some more mature women coming in for help as well?
Unplanned pregnancy can happen to any woman who's able to conceive. So our youngest client has been 14, our oldest has been 43. Unplanned pregnancy really doesn't discriminate. So I would say our biggest demographic of clients would be between 19 and 24, the post-secondary age within there. But really, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I'm guessing that some of your clients decide to keep their child while others choose adoption. And is this something that you help with as well?
Absolutely. So when a woman comes in to talk about her pregnancy options, we'll give her information on all three of her options: parenting, placing for adoption, or terminating a pregnancy. And then whatever she chooses from there, we'll journey with her, whether that is the practical supports needed for parenting, connecting her with an adoption agency and walking that adoption journey with her, or being a safe place to land and to talk after an abortion decision.
That's huge. That is huge. Okay, so once the child is born, what kind of help is the mom usually in need of over the next number of months?
Again, it very much depends on circumstances. For some of our clients, it is very much a financial struggle. So then we're able to help out with baby clothes, with diapers, with formula. For others, they need emotional support. Perhaps they're doing well financially, but they're on their own. I've been a single mom. That is a hard, lonely journey. And so to have somebody to call and say, I'm so tired, or even have somebody to call and say his first tooth came through, that's a big deal. And so we get to be that support as well.
And I see you even provide teaching for new moms as to what to expect in baby's first year. That's really important.
We do, and what we've found, so that's a 6-week class that we offer a few times a year. One of the biggest benefits comes out of that is community. And so we see the moms who do the class together, sharing phone numbers. They get together for play dates. They have built now a community of other moms, which has been fantastic to see.
Now, are these being done on Zoom these days, which you alluded to earlier?
We haven't done one quite yet, but we're getting into that time frame that it'll be just about time again. So we'll look at doing it on Zoom.
That'd be awesome. So what kind of feedback are you getting from people who come for your help?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's another great thing about having been open as long as we have been now. We've had women come back. I think one of the greatest compliments we get is when our clients return the clothes that they've gotten from us, saying, you've helped us, we want to help you. We had a client actually just last week call and say that she wanted to make a financial gift. She said, I have some money that I want to gift to a charity, and you guys have played such an important role in my life, and I want to be able to gift this to the center. So it is amazing to have our clients refer their friends and their family to say, you have played a huge role in my life. I want you to also help my friends.
That is huge. So you probably get some individuals coming to your clinic to get some birth control items. Is this something that you deal with as well?
It's not actually. We are not a medical clinic at all. So for those looking for birth control, we'll refer them to go back and talk to their doctor or to a pharmacist. We do have some great conversations though, even around the topic of abstinence. Just to be able to say, hey, it is actually a healthy choice. If you're choosing to be sexually active, then you do. You need to be talking to your doctor, but what would it look like in your life to make a choice for abstinence?
Now, I understand that your staff is mainly volunteers. Are you looking for any more volunteers at this time?
We're always looking for volunteers, actually. So yes, we have 4 paid staff currently and about 25 volunteers every week. And our volunteers are the ones who see our clients, who do those options counseling. We also have volunteers who work in our clothing room, sorting donations, all of those things. So yes, that's something we're always looking for.
So all across the gamut.
Yes. Yeah.
There's something for everyone.
Absolutely.
And are you still accepting donations of new or used items during this COVID-19 time? It's kind of hard to donate these days.
It really is, and actually we get a number of calls every day and we are not accepting any new or used clothing right now, but what we are accepting and we are asking for is donations of diapers, formula, wipes, things that are brand new and boxed up that we can wipe down and safely hand to our clients.
Okay, well that's interesting. Now, I believe that your facility is mostly funded by donations as a charitable organization. So how can people support you financially?
We are supported by our donor base, and we have a fantastic donor base here in Southern Alberta. I think we all know how philanthropic and how generous Lethbridge in Southern Alberta is, so we're so pleased to be a part of this community. But yes, COVID-19 has definitely messed with our fundraising this spring. We've had a couple of events that have been canceled, so any financial support that we can receive is very much appreciated. We are looking into some of the subsidies and things that are made available through the federal government, but we are getting ready to kick off an online fundraising campaign on Mother's Day. What we typically do is we have a baby bottle campaign where we hand out empty baby bottles to church congregations and they fill them with change. Well, we can't do that this year. So that is going to be entirely online. And so we're hoping that families are able to take part in that and that they'll be able to contribute financially as well as just learn about the center and hopefully learn what we do, but also how then to respond in grace to someone who is experiencing an unplanned pregnancy and just to have those conversations as families then.
So online financial donations, you're still accepting that through your website?
Absolutely, through our website. Go to lethbridgepregcenter.com.
Well, Monica, thank you so much for being here again. We just really appreciated you stopping by again.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be able to come back and give you an update and just to be able to share with your viewers what's going on in the center in the midst of COVID.
Many in Fort McMurray are still dealing with the devastating wildfires from 4 years ago and now damaging flooding in the city's downtown core, affecting so many businesses and so many people's homes. The province has already said it's willing to step up and help out, but what about Ottawa? To talk more about it is Toronto Sun political journalist Brian Lilly. Brian, will the Trudeau Liberals be sending any military help, maybe to help people in Fort McMurray?
That actually all depends on the Kenny government in Alberta, because the federal government can't send in the military to a domestic situation in any province or territory without that local government first asking for that help. So that's not a cop out for Justin Trudeau or the Liberals. That's the way our system operates. So if Premier Jason Kenney and his government says, look, we need some help from the military, whether it be just to assist with sandbagging, whether it be to assist with debris clearing. You know, I remember the floods in, what was it, 2013, 14 in Calgary and High River, all through southern Alberta. That was devastating. And the work that went into that cleanup was very long, very arduous. It took a lot of time. So, you know, that's perhaps somewhere that the military could do assistance with. At this point, given, you know, the situation with the flooding, it's likely too late to do sandbagging, given where the water is, but they could go in and help with recovery. All of that requires the provincial government to step up and say, we need assistance. Once that request is made, things start to flow from there.
New federal data says almost 80% of COVID-19 related deaths are from people in care homes, and many of those, Brian, most vulnerable, had underlying health conditions.
Yeah, we're talking about people that were, you know, look, if you're in a long-term care facility of any sort, regardless of where you are in Canada, you're not there because you're in the best of health. And we've all got aging parents or grandparents, and we can feel for the condition that they're in. But, you know, if you're in generally good health, and, you know, God bless them, my parents are in good health at this point. But there are people of their age who are in long-term care facilities who, you know, they've got a medical condition, be it heart condition, be it diabetes, be it, you know, they've had a stroke, who knows what it is. Those are the people that end up in long-term care facilities. We know that COVID-19, it doesn't discriminate in terms of who it hits, right? I mean, if you look at the demographics of who contracts it and who suffers from it, it's quite vast. It goes across age groups. But when it comes to mortality, we know that it disproportionately affects the elderly, and in particular those in long-term care settings. Well, because they have an underlying health condition of one type or another. I'm not saying that that's an excuse for any provincial government of any sort, but it is an unfortunate reality that whether it be COVID-19 or flu or, you know, any sort of infection that's going around, these are the people that are the most vulnerable, and they've been hardest hit by this.
The latest national COVID-19 modeling shows just over 3,800 deaths are expected by May the 5th. Brian, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says, however, that the curve is actually flattened in many parts of the country.
Well, that is the hope, and we've already seen that when it comes to British Columbia. We've seen it to a degree in Ontario. I'm not sure that we have seen it in Quebec, where they're already talking about opening up schools, or even in Alberta, which Alberta seemed to be doing pretty well, and then you had that big spike of about 400 cases showing up at once down in High River at the Cargill plant, and you've had other hotspots elsewhere. So, you know, it really does depend. Saskatchewan, though, they tend to be doing well. Manitoba's doing okay. Nunavut doing the best of all of us, by the way. 0 cases of COVID-19, and they don't want anyone visiting. My daughter was, eldest daughter was supposed to be going up to Nunavut this spring. She will not be going. They don't want anyone visiting, and they want to keep it at 0. Overall, for the country, Canada has done better than we might have expected if you looked at some of the models that were put out early on. In some instances, we've done worse. Quebec has been particularly bad, and Montreal in particular, which is very strange. You know, as someone that's lived and worked in Montreal over the years, Hal, it's a city with a robust healthcare system, and yet somehow they got hit hard by this and in ways that they were not expecting.
Now, Brian, speaking of viruses, a 2014 document says federal officials were much more prepared for a possible Ebola outbreak than they were for COVID-19.
Yeah, this is a document that was circulated from Public Health to the Canadian Nurses Association, letting them know what was ready to go if and when Ebola showed up on Canada's shores. Now, thankfully, of course, in 2014, Ebola did not, but that was the big concern. There was an Ebola outbreak in, I believe it was Western Africa at the time. There was a lot of concern that, you know, as with any of these, outbreaks of highly contagious diseases. Canada is a global country. We have travelers coming in and out all the time from all parts of the world. All it takes is one person showing up, being sick, and spreading it to the rest of us, as we've seen with COVID-19, to really pass this on. But what they had in place in 2014 was not only a plan for the national emergency strategic stockpile that we've talked about so many times, but they had 28 hospitals across the country designated as Ebola treatment centers. So regardless of where you were in the country, it could have been the local hospital in Lethbridge where you are. That could have been one of the centers. Or maybe they would have said, Hal, you got Ebola because you came into contact with someone with Ebola. You've got to go to such and such hospital in Calgary. And then from there, they had details on how you would be transported. They had details on what would happen to travelers coming from outside the country who showed symptoms and what would happen to travelers who had no symptoms. It was much more well thought out before a single case ever appeared than what we've seen from the federal government when it comes to COVID-19. Now, on the ground, once COVID-19 shows up, it's up to the provinces to deal with it, local health officials and the provinces. But keeping it out of the country is the federal government's role. And they failed on this. They failed on stopping it coming in on flights. They failed on screening. And this document truly shows that when it comes to Ebola, 6 years ago, they were far better prepared than they are now. And this is a document that's up for public viewing on the website of the Canadian Nurses Association.
Now, there's been a lot of controversy recently over Derek Sloan's comments about Dr. Theresa Tam. And now Tory leader Andrew Scheer says he should never have questioned her loyalty to our country. Can you explain?
Yeah, look, Derek Tam raised some valid points about Dr. Theresa Tam, but he also went too far, in my view. I've been very critical about how Dr. Tam has handled this. I've been very critical of the entire Canadian medical establishment and saying we basically outsourced, I said in one column, we outsourced our medical wherewithal, our medical determinations to the World Health Organization. And for a country like Canada that discovered insulin, that found treatments for cancer, for all kinds of rare genetic disorders, that we should suddenly say, well, we won't do anything until the World Health Organization tells us to do it. Well, that's wrong. But what Derek Sloan did was take it a couple of steps further. He said that Dr. Tam, who was born in Hong Kong, educated in Canada and in Britain, and has made her career here, he talked about her parroting the viewpoints of the Communist Party of China. He talked about her showing more loyalty to them. That's where he went too far. Not in saying that Canadian officials maybe relied too much on the World Health Organization, which I believe is a valid point. But when he says, she's got to decide, does she work for Canada or does she work for the Communist Party of China, that's taking it to a point where you're like, okay, you're maybe, I don't question Dr. Tam's loyalty. I do question some of her judgment. And there's a world of difference between the two.
Some of our provinces' economies are slowly starting to reopen, Brian. Saskatchewan next week, Quebec after that. BC's on the move, and Ontario is kind of up in the air. Here in Alberta, we're hoping to slowly maybe do a soft relaunch of our economy sometime next month. But we need to reopen to save our businesses, but we have to do so in a smart way.
Yeah, and so each province is taking their own way in doing this. And, it's strange to watch federal reporters, and I mentioned this on Twitter during the last week or so, is that I really do think before you're allowed to go up and be a reporter on Parliament Hill, maybe you need to spend some time covering provincial politics before you go up and you question all the federal guys, because you keep hearing questions from these young bucks up on Parliament Hill saying, well, will you force the province to do this? Will you force such and such province to do that? Well, it's not up to the Prime Minister, regardless of who it is, to do that. That's not the Prime Minister's job. Provinces get to determine things within their own jurisdiction on their own timeline. And this is very much all within their own jurisdiction. And the Prime Minister, to his credit, has said that. And so British Columbia, they got hit first. They got hit hardest. they're coming out of this earlier. Saskatchewan did not get hit that hard. Okay, so they're going to start coming out of this earlier. Alberta seemed to be doing okay. Then they had a bit of a setback. And so Alberta's got to figure out where are they at and when can they do that soft relaunch. Nobody's going to be doing a big, all right, everything's back to normal, turn on the switch now. It's going to be a very different economy that we're dealing with, a very different lifestyle, Hal. And for you and I, who are CFL fans, who are sports fans, we can kiss this season goodbye.
Yeah, it really kills me. Now, speaking of canceled events, one of our reporters recently said summer's been canceled, Brian. I mean, here in town, Whoop Up Days has been canceled. The Calgary Stampede has been canceled, which usually injects over $500 million to the Alberta economy. What can we actually look forward to doing this summer outside of barbecues?
Barbecuing. Do you like kayaking? Solo kayaking will be big. Stand-up paddleboarding. That's going to be huge this summer. What else can you do on your own? Walking. Walking will be,
darts, right?
Darts. Yeah. As far as spectator sports, watching Brits infected with COVID throw darts at a board might be the best thing that you can do. We're not going to see a return of professional sports or even going to watch your kids play. And look, I know some people are saying, oh, where I live, it's fine. And why can't we just have the CFL start back up? Well, there are 3 CFL franchises in Ontario alone. There's 2 in Alberta. There's one in Quebec. Our 3 provinces are not ready to open. So what are you going to have? British Columbia and Saskatchewan play each other over and over again? That's going to be a very boring. Sorry, I forgot Manitoba. I forgot Winnipeg. Not surprising. But that's going to be a very boring way to live. Is to have that. We're not ready to have these loud events, where we're all crammed in together, where we're all yelling and screaming at each other, we're spitting on each other without even knowing it. No government's going to allow that sort of thing. So that's not going to be happening this summer. The concert in the park, Stratford, the big theater festival in Southern Ontario, that's gone as well. And, maybe it's not as grand as and exciting as the Calgary Stampede, but it goes on for months. And like the Stampede, draws in hundreds of millions of dollars. There are concert festivals across the country that are going to be canceled. Boots and Hearts in Ontario, Craven in Saskatchewan, the Stampede, everything. It's going to be shut down. It's going to be, I keep having Bananarama run through my head. It's a cruel, cruel summer. Now she's gone.
Brian, part of getting back to potentially a new normal could mean a vaccine for the coronavirus. But a new poll, however, shows that Canadians are divided on making the vaccine mandatory.
Yeah, and if you asked me, should the vaccine be mandatory, I would say no. Now, if you asked me, will you get the vaccine, I would say absolutely. I would get this vaccine. But, I'm on the side where I have real trouble with the government telling me you must inject this chemical concoction into your body. If you give the government that ability for this or anything else, then they can use it for nefarious purposes. And I'm genuinely against that. I think most people would get the vaccine if it were offered to them. Do we have to wait for the vaccine to start getting back to normal? No, I don't think so. Now, I say getting back to normal, not being back to where we were. This is all going to be a slow process, Hal. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. The best description I've heard is it's a dimmer switch, not an on and off switch.
Many in our country are still in mourning following the worst mass shooting in Canadian history in Nova Scotia, which left 23 people dead, including the shooter. Brian, it turns out the shooter wore an authentic RCMP uniform during his rampage.
Yeah, not only had a car that looked like an RCMP cruiser, but a full and authentic uniform. Now, I'd heard various reports that, his cap was right, or his shirt was right. His pants weren't, though, or now the RCMP says, no, this was a full authentic uniform. Just imagine that. You are a normal Nova Scotian driving around. Look, the RCMP is effectively the provincial police for Alberta. And you're going around, you're driving down the highway, you're pulled over, you think nothing of it, and then the cop shows up and starts shooting at you. that's what the people in that area of Nova Scotia between Portapique and Enfield were dealing with just over a week and a half ago. It's heartbreaking. It is devastating. My colleague Joe Warmington spoke to the father of the shooter, Paul Wortman, who said his heart is breaking because of what his son has inflicted upon the country. I can only imagine what the families of the victims are going through at this point.
Absolutely. Brian Lilly from the Toronto Sun, thanks again for your time today.
Thank you.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.